All right, let's jump into a deep dive, shall we? This one's going to be fascinating. We're taking a look at Milan Kundera's The Unbearable Lightness of Being.
Ah, yes, such a thought-provoking novel.
Yeah, it really is. It takes us to Prague in 1968,
Mm.
right during the Soviet invasion, a time of intense political and personal upheaval.
Definitely sets the stage for some compelling drama.
And the characters we meet, oh, they are complex. We got Tomáš, Tereza, Sabina, and Franz. Each one grapples with love, betrayal, and this search for meaning, especially in a world that just feels so uncertain.
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head there with the uncertainty. That feeling of everything being fleeting and heavy at the same time. It's central to the whole novel.
And I think that's what Kundera really wants us to explore, right? This core question. Is life defined by lightness, like, freedom, lack of burdens, or is it weighed down by responsibility and meaning?
It's a question that resonates across the ages. And Kundera really uses the backdrop of the Soviet invasion to mirror those internal struggles of the characters. Like, they're not just dealing with their own personal dramas, but this huge external force that's shaking their world.
Exactly. And then he throws in this idea of Nietzsche's eternal recurrence.
Oh, yes. That really adds another layer of complexity, doesn't it?
Totally. So for those who might not be familiar, it's this concept that life repeats infinitely.
Right. Like everything we do, every choice we make will happen again and again and again.
And that really makes you think about consequences, doesn't it?
Hmm.
If everything repeats eternally, do our actions carry more weight?
Or on the flip side, does it make each individual life feel almost insignificant?
Like almost unbearably light. Because if it's all just going to happen again anyway, does anything really matter?
It's a mind-bending concept. And Kundera doesn't give us any easy answers. He wants us to wrestle with these questions right alongside his characters.
And the characters themselves embody these contrasting viewpoints in such a fascinating way. You've got Tomáš and Sabina, who seem to really champion lightness. They seek freedom and avoid getting too attached.
Right, and then there's Tereza, who is yearning for that deeper connection. She wants love, meaning, and she really represents that weight of emotional engagement.
It's almost like they're two sides of the same coin. But it's not as simple as just labeling Tomáš a commitment phobe. Kundera really digs deeper into his motivations.
Oh, absolutely. He explores those philosophical underpinnings of Tomáš's pursuit of lightness. Tomáš sees it as a rebellion against societal expectations, especially in the context of living under a communist regime.
It's almost like, under a system that seeks to control every aspect of life, embracing lightness becomes a way to assert some kind of personal freedom.
And that's even more interesting considering his profession as a surgeon.
You'd think someone who deals with life and death so directly would be more drawn to the weight of existence.
Right. But maybe for Tomáš, surgery is another way to exert control, a detached kind of control over the physical world.
That's a great point. It adds a whole other dimension to his character. And then we have Tereza entering the picture, literally carrying a book when they first meet.
That image is so powerful, it instantly sets her apart from Tomáš's other, shall we say, fleeting encounters.
She represents this depth of thought and feeling that both attracts and challenges him.
Absolutely. Their first meeting has this almost fated feeling to it.
Tereza sees it as destiny, while Tomáš is initially just viewing it as another affair.
Classic Kundera, setting up that tension right from the start.
And their relationship really gets to the heart of the novel's central conflict. Tereza's emotional needs directly challenge Tomáš's carefully constructed world of lightness.
He wants the pleasure without the responsibility, but Tereza craves something much deeper.
That real connection of the soul. But her longing for that connection is deeply rooted in her past.
Her childhood experiences, those vivid, almost surreal nightmares that Kundera describes, they really give us insight into her anxieties.
It's not just that she's afraid, it's the nature of her fears.
Ah.
She often dreams of being exposed, vulnerable, reduced to just her physical form.
Which makes sense given her upbringing. Kundera reveals how her childhood was marked by her mother's constant scrutiny of her body.
Leading to this deep insecurity about the relationship between the body and the soul. It's like she feels fragmented somehow.
And that ties into her fear of betrayal, the fear of her body being used and then discarded. Like she's searching for someone who sees her as a whole person, not just a physical object.
And that's where her longing for love comes in. She sees it as a way to bridge that gap between body and soul, to finally feel whole and seen.
It's interesting how that external force of the Soviet invasion really acts as a catalyst for change in Tomáš and Tereza's relationship.
It really does. It's not just this historical backdrop. It forces them to confront their own philosophies.
Right? Like those tanks rolling into Prague are like the crushing weight of reality. It intrudes on their carefully constructed lives.
And especially for Tomáš. He always prided himself on living above the political fray.
But all of a sudden, he's facing real consequences for his actions. Or, his inaction, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that refusal to sign that political statement.
Which he probably saw as a minor act of defiance.
Ends up costing him his job as a surgeon.
It's a huge blow to his ego.
It forces him to confront the limits of this life he's built. This life solely focused on detachment and pleasure.
A turning point for sure. He realizes even in his pursuit of lightness, he can't escape the weight of the world.
And that decision to follow Tereza to the countryside, it feels like a shift in his priorities.
Definitely. It's like they're searching for a refuge from the political turmoil.
A place to build a life together, away from it all. But even in the countryside, their fundamental differences continue to create tension.
Absolutely. Their opposing approaches to life, they just keep clashing.
It's like Tomáš finds this contentment in the simplicity of farm life.
Right, the physical labor, the connection to nature. It's almost like he's discovering a different kind of lightness.
Yeah, one grounded in responsibility and purpose. But Tereza, ironically, starts to feel like a burden.
She worries that she's holding Tomáš back.
That her love is a weight dragging him down.
Again, those deep-seated insecurities coming into play.
That fear of not being enough.
And I think the introduction of Karenin the dog adds another layer to all of this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Karenin is such a fascinating character.
He's more than just a pet. He represents this pure, uncomplicated love.
This constant presence that offers a contrast to the complexities of their human relationship.
It's interesting. Karenin embodies the ideal of lightness that Tomáš has been striving for.
He's unburdened by thought or complex emotions.
And yet he's deeply connected to Tereza. He gives her that unconditional love and acceptance that she so desperately craves.
And caring for Karenin, especially as he gets older and sick, I think that's where Tereza starts to understand the beauty of fleeting moments.
His illness, his eventual death, it's a turning point for her.
She learns about acceptance, about the inevitability of loss.
Right. It's like she finally grasps the idea that lightness isn't about denying weight or responsibility.
It's about finding a way to embrace both the joy and the sorrow.
The beauty and the pain that's woven into existence.
And speaking of contrasting approaches to life, I think it's time we turn our attention to Sabina and Franz.
Yeah, their relationship offers a whole other perspective on this theme of lightness and weight.
Sabina, with her constant need for freedom.
Her almost playful approach to betrayal.
It stands in such stark contrast to Franz, who is searching for this grand meaning, this enduring love.
She's all about breaking free from expectations.
While he's trying to find his place within those very structures. And their views on infidelity. Wow, talk about a clash.
Right. For Sabina, betrayal is a form of liberation.
A way to assert her individuality.
To reject those constraints of societal norms.
It's like an artistic statement.
A way to disrupt the status quo.
And then you have Franz, who sees their affair as this grand romantic gesture.
A testament to the power of their connection.
It's almost comical how they're constantly misinterpreting each other's intentions.
They just speak completely different languages when it comes to love and relationships.
For Sabina, love is this fleeting experience.
Something to be enjoyed in the moment.
While Franz yearns for something much deeper, something enduring.
He sees their affair as a step towards a shared future.
And she sees it as just another chapter in her quest for personal freedom. And that disconnect becomes so clear when he leaves his wife for her.
Trying to solidify their bond.
And Sabina, well, she runs.
Classic Sabina, avoiding that weight of commitment.
But even with her unwavering dedication to lightness, we see these glimpses of loneliness and doubt.
Especially towards the end of the novel.
Makes you wonder if a life of absolute detachment can truly be fulfilling.
Right. It raises the question, can you constantly seek freedom without sacrificing connection?
And I think Kundera is suggesting that maybe true fulfillment doesn't lie in chasing either extreme.
Lightness or weight?
Perhaps it's about finding that balance.
Recognizing that life is this complex tapestry.
Woven from both fleeting moments and enduring connections.
And that idea of balance becomes even more poignant when we consider Franz.
His quest for grand meaning.
His desire to make a lasting impact on the world.
It leads him to disillusionment and ultimately a tragic end.
He becomes fixated on the Grand March.
Joining this collective movement for change.
He sees it as a way to give his life purpose.
But Kundera seems to be cautioning us against seeking meaning solely through external validation.
Franz's involvement in these political movements, it ends up feeling hollow.
Like a pale imitation of the passionate, albeit flawed, love he experienced with Sabina.
It's almost as if he's saying that real meaning might be found in those everyday moments.
Right. Not in these grand illusions or these huge gestures, but the complexities of just, living.
Yeah, exactly. Like what Tomáš and Tereza find in the countryside.
Yeah, they're stripped of their former lives, careers, their social standing, the constant political tension.
It forces them to confront their vulnerabilities and rely on each other. And it's in that simplicity, in the routine of farm life, that they find peace, wouldn't you say?
I think so, yeah. Tomáš, who is so defined by his intellect, his pursuit of freedom,
Finds fulfillment in physical labor.
such a contrast to his life as a surgeon, where he
Ah.
had that detached control over the body.
It's like he traded in his quest for lightness for a different kind of freedom.
Yeah, the freedom that comes with responsibility, being present, finding joy in the ordinary.
And for Teresa, the countryside offers a space where she can finally feel safe.
That constant fear of betrayal that haunted her in the city. It seems to fade away as she connects with nature.
And finds purpose in caring for the animals, especially Karenin.
Oh, their relationship with Karenin is so powerful. He's more than just a pet.
He's this symbol of pure, unconditional love.
Such a stark contrast to the complexities of their human relationship.
And as he grows older, as he gets sick, it teaches Teresa such a profound lesson about acceptance.
His death is heartbreaking, but it also brings Tomáš and Tereza closer together.
It's like in sharing that grief, they reach a new level of understanding.
They've both faced loss and disappointment, and it seems like they're able to finally let go of the need to control their relationship.
Yeah, to just be present with each other.
Accept each other's strengths and weaknesses.
It's a quiet kind of love, but it feels so real, so earned.
And it's a reflection of what Kundera seems to be saying about life itself, isn't it? It's not about clinging to either lightness or weight.
It's about embracing the full spectrum of human experience.
And finding a way to hold both.
Exactly. Kundera leaves us with this question. What does it mean to live a meaningful life when everything feels temporary? He doesn't give us any easy answers, but I think through the lives of these characters, he encourages us to find our own balance.
To embrace both the lightness and weight that shape our own journeys. And that's the beauty of the unbearable lightness of being, isn't it? It makes you think about your own choices, your search for meaning.
And that delicate balance between freedom and responsibility.
It's a book that stays with you,
Yeah.
long after you finish reading it.
Absolutely. And as Kundera himself wrote, the heavier the burden, the closer our lives come to the earth, the more real and truthful they become.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. Where do you find lightness and weight in your own life?
And how can embracing both lead you to a richer, more authentic existence?